Hey, what's going on, traders? Happy Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel. And if you guys saw the thumbnail, I'm sure you guys must be wondering how on earth was I down over $600, right, trading in the market today. And so I'm going to jump right into today's video and I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys exactly what led to me having my biggest red day of the year trading so far, right? So let's get right into it. And as you guys can see, right, I was down $654 on SQQQ, and I did take an additional $12 loss on TQQQ, right? So, huge loss today. And so I'm going to go ahead and explain to you guys, what was going on through my mind. And so as you guys can see, right, I did start trading about half an hour after market open, right around 7 o'clock, and I did stop at 11:07, right? So I was trading for about, 4 hours. And so let me just break down exactly what was going on through my head. And for any of you guys wondering, why I'm not trading paper on a paper account, because yesterday I did mention I would be trading on a paper account. My brother actually wasn't able to use the main account today and trade, so I decided to go ahead and use it. But, unfortunately, I picked a really bad day to do that. But, yeah, so what ended up happening is, there was a big report that was supposed to be announced right at 10:30, right? And for any of you guys who are not aware, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell was giving a speech where he was going to pretty much talk about inflation and all the interest rate hikes that have been happening. And what pretty much ended up being reported was that he was going to be a little less aggressive in terms of the actual interest rate hikes themselves, right? So what we can expect heading into December for the other interest rate hikes is that maybe they get hiked by 0.75 or point 0.5 of a percentage point, right? But in terms of when the actual interest rate hikes are going to stop, that wasn't really announced today. So but that positive news alone of the fact that they were going to be a little less aggressive in terms of the rate hikes themselves, right, is what caused the market to start to soar, right? But even before all this happened, right, as we can see, the market itself wasn't moving too much because of the fact that, there was going to be a big report release. So everyone was pretty much, easing off today. They weren't really doing anything drastic heading, up to 10:30. And so what I ended up noticing is that every time the Nasdaq approached the top VWAP, as you guys can see, it would get rejected and sell off to bottom VWAP, right? Doesn't mean it has to, but that's the pattern I saw. So what I ended up doing is I started to, take some SQQQ plays, and as you guys can tell, this thing sold off, but then ended up picking back up. So let me go ahead and zoom in so you guys get a better look of what I mean, right? So what ended up happening, right, is this thing sold off. I got into SQQQ, right? I was able to make some money here, but then this thing changed direction so fast, right? And I should have locked in profit because of the fact that it did bounce here before, but I decided to play a little riskier. This thing ended up changing direction again. I had to, stop or cut the trade there. And then ultimately, I was waiting for this thing to sell off again, right? This thing picked back up, peaked out, right? Got overextended, got rejected again. And I was in SQQ really heavy, especially leading into this play here, right? So I was in average fully, and by the time this thing hit closer to bottom VWAP, and I saw this thing start to bounce yet again, that's when I decided to reduce most of my shares, right? So I did a good job of trading SQQQ, right? Heading into this part of the day. And so by this point, I actually decided to close out of my position entirely right around here as I saw it really starting to bounce. And so I was able to make about $130 profit on SQQQ, believe it or not. So I was actually up a decent amount on the day, right before the report even happened. And so what actually ended up happening? Well, I was waiting for the report to come out, and it gets released at 10:30. What ends up happening? Well, this thing starts to fall a bit, right? And I decided I was going to take a bearish play on the market itself, and it was going to be a very risky and aggressive play. And the main reason for that is, yeah, as you guys know, on the bigger time frames, right, the Nasdaq was a bit more overextended, right? Anytime we did approach these general areas of resistance, we did pull on back. And given the fact that we did push up, consolidated, and we're starting to sell off, right, I thought we were going to see a really big red bar today, to be honest, and that I thought that the market was going to react negatively to the news, right? And so it made sense to me too because of the fact that especially the past 5 to 10 days, we've been selling off and forming these lower highs and lower lows, right? So I thought that we were just forming another high here for a potential lower high, right? And that the market was going to shoot it up for a small period of time and then we were going to get rejected and continue to fall, right? So I was betting huge on the market falling, right? And if it's just unfortunate that it didn't, go according to plan, but it just goes to show that I really needed to have been more prepared, with A, managing my risk, and B, not falling in love with my trade, right? I fell in love with the idea that the Nasdaq had to sell off, right? It had to, because of the fact that we have been seeing it make these lower lows and lower highs, but nothing has to happen in the stock market, right? And today was a valuable lesson. This thing completely changed direction, right? So what ended up happening is the market started to fall a bit, as you guys can see. I bought in very aggressively, right? And I was willing to let the shares ride because of the fact that I was already up about $130 on SQQQ, if you guys remember, right? So in my eyes, I was going to be fully averaged in, and either this thing was gonna tank on the day and I was gonna be up, seven, eight, $900 on SQQQ, or this thing was gonna potentially rip, right? And I was gonna stop loss it or stop out, right, for a loss and give back my profit plus, $200 on top of that, right? So I was okay with walking away with a $200, $300 loss, right, on the day if it meant risking it for potentially being up, double or triple that. But what actually ended up happening is I had to go to work right around this time as it started to get rejected. And I told myself I was going to set a stop loss. But on the way to work, I literally forgot to, never did. I show up to work and then I had to literally cut losses right around this area. And I know this little movement doesn't seem much, right, from here to here. But, this thing you guys have to realize was very bullish. So just this play alone cost me $200 to $300 being fully averaged in, right? So I knew I was gonna take a big hit, but I really wasn't expecting it to be that big, right? If I did a better job of managing my risk and I actually went ahead and set the stop loss before, I headed to work, then that would have made a lot more sense and I could have saved myself a decent amount of money. But I hope you guys, definitely learn from this lesson. I for sure am. I'm never gonna be fully invested in a position and not be there, right? It's just not, in my best interest, as you guys can tell, because if this thing does go south, it can go south and really hurt me, right? But luckily for me, as you guys can see, I was only down $148 on the day, and that's because of the fact that I am so heavily invested in, tech stocks. And as you guys know, right, from my video yesterday where I broke down, or it may have been from Monday, where I broke down my swing trades and the prices I got in, right? Well, they all actually did very well today. So I was luckily able to, make over $400 off my swing trade. So it really ate away at, this big loss I had. So I'm very grateful for that. And in terms of the market itself, where are we headed? And right now this was a very good sign for us in terms of today, for this thing starting to, change direction and start to want to uptrend again, right? But we do have to be aware, right, that we are a little more overextended after this big push today. That's one thing, right? Another thing is we have previously gotten rejected around this area before, right? So just because we had this nice, green day doesn't mean that this thing can't pull on back. For all we know, this thing could get rejected here, form a double top, and start to sell off aggressively, right? We just need to wait and see and follow up with it and really take it day by day, right? But promising sign for the market today, right? If we do start to change direction and start to uptrend, right, rather than consistently downtrend, then that is gonna, motivate me more to invest even heavier into my tech stocks long term, right? Because overall, long term, there still are pretty good deals even at these prices. But I'm just prepared in case the market were to pull back, right? That I'm not, fully into to the point where it really wrecks me, right? But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in today's video. I hope you guys found this informative and useful at all in any way. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to share in terms of my biggest red days so far, right? Obviously, I am going to be focusing heavily on managing my risk and making sure this type of big loss never happens again. But yeah, it is bummy, but it is a position I put myself in, so I can't be too, you know, sad about it. But yep, that's pretty much everything. Thank you guys so much again for your time. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all whatsoever, go ahead and drop a comment. You want me to break down any stock for you, any stock indicator, I'll be more than happy to do that. Just go ahead and leave a comment and I will go ahead and, reply or post a video on it even. But yep, thank you guys so much again. I will be posting a recap tomorrow, so I will see you guys then. Take care and have a good rest of your day.